This is the Third Place podcast, recording from the JLP CPA sponsored studio. I'm Brian Dolan, and right here, adjacent to me, Lauren Cuevas.
Home is your workplace. No. Home is your first place. Work is your second place. And this is your third place, where the Christian community gathers.
Well, for some people, home is their workplace.
Yeah, like for Eddie.
Yeah, so it works out. And joining us in studio for the whole episode today, a dear friend of ours. She was on the other show a lot. She's on the new show. She is from Grace and Beauty Ministries, Erica Kurscak. Welcome to the show.
Yay!
I'm so happy to be here.
She's the best. You were, and we started off just as friends, and then you were a guest on the show. Mm-hmm. And your husband, Dr. Kurscak, is awesome, and he's a pastor at Maranatha Bible Church.
Yes.
So
Recent doctor, right? Didn't he recently finish?
It's been a year and a half now.
Wow.
Yeah.
now I started a trend. Has that trend continued at the church at all?
No. I'm so sorry.
Do you remember the trend?
Dr. Hottie?
Yeah, Dr. Hottie.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you do this? You have Dr. Hottie and Scotty the Hottie. So why do you
Well,
do
no,
that?
okay.
Why do you?
So
why is
Pastor
this
Scott
who you are?
Lesson, I didn't make that up.
Oh, okay.
His
Story
wife
time.
has that in her phone
Sure,
as his
that's
contact.
your husband. So that's
And she'll
different.
occasionally share his contact with people, and so it comes up on their phone as Scotty the Hottie.
Yeah, I did that one time and it was really embarrassing. I was like, Eddie Heart Ice. And I was like, oh, that's so embarrassing.
Like if Eddie called me and it said that, I'd feel a little weird. But then for you, so he's becoming a PhD, and I was just like, what are you going to call him now? Dr. Sweetie or Dr. Honeybun or I don't know, Dr. Hottie. And that's just
Yeah.
where that came from. She still will not tell me what her and Eddie call each other.
Yeah, because you'd be like this about it. So
Do you and Nathan have a little thing you say, like sweetie, honey pie, or baby cakes, or
Not a lot. Sometimes love, lover.
yeah?
But
I call Sarah Love sometimes. Hey, love, come here.
I mean, it's still kind of generic though. There's not like a specific
yeah.
Dr. Hottie or anything.
But you could.
I could.
Now, speaking of love, the first thing I wanted to get to before we talk about our topic with you today, which is going to be, I think, a really important one, especially when it comes to Grace and Beauty Ministries. It has to do with people who are dealing with the infertility, loss of a child. People always talk about how God redeems things. But in those situations, it's hard to embrace it and really know what that truly means. So we're going to dig into that. But first, there was a Relevant magazine article where somebody was talking about marriage and love, and where this person will regularly get questions about, how do you know you're ready to get married? It's a big question. At some point, you'll talk to your son, in a long time, I would hope, you'll talk to your sons about that.
Yes.
Since he started kindergarten. Your
Yeah, I
oldest.
think we've got a minute.
You have to bring that up yet.
Yeah.
But your oldest is in 8th grade. Mm-hmm. Have you ever had that kind of talk? Like, have they ever said, hey, Mommy, how did you know that Daddy was the one?
No, not that specifically. I don't think.
It'll come up at some point, I
Yeah.
would imagine.
Have you had it?
Oh, sure. I think I was, I don't remember. My oldest daughter has always been a hopeless romantic. Like, as soon as she saw a Disney princess movie, she was like, I'm living happily ever after. Like, where's my Prince Charming? Since she was a little tiny baby. So that's come up with us. But I don't know that we know your little love story we know Lauren's, we know mine. How did you meet
It's a
Dr.
good
Hottie?
one. How did I meet Dr. Hottie? He wasn't a doctor back
Yeah, come
then.
on.
He was still a hottie though.
Yeah.
Of course.
Plain Hottie.
So I was at Westminster Theological Seminary in Philadelphia working on my master's in biblical counseling.
We'll just pause there. He wasn't intimidated by that?
He wasn't. I don't know.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
I just think that's so. I'm sorry. I always think that your degrees and your achievements are you underplay them. And so hearing you say, well, when I was at Westminster Theological Seminary working on my math, it's like, whoa, I went to Winona State University. Okay, but anyway, you were there.
Okay, I was there. And I had some classes with it was a girl named Heather, and she was dating this guy named Seth. Seth is one of Nathan's friends from Moody. So Nathan was not at Westminster, but one of his really good friends from Moody was there. And Seth and Heather came to Ohio for a wedding and stayed at Nathan's house. And she was like, this guy's so great, we got to hook him up with somebody. All right, Seth, we got to go back to school. We got to figure out who this is supposed to be. I have like 10, 12 girls I could think of to set you up with, And Nathan's like, yeah, okay, whatever. So he's like, I'm not really into long distance relationships, but, I don't think he really took her seriously. So she came back to school. And I was talking to Seth in the library one day, and I don't even know what we were talking about. And I guess the whole time he was just like, she's the one we have to set up with Nathan. And then I had class with Heather, and so Seth and Heather got together, and they're like, it's Erica. We got to set her up with Nathan. So that's what they did.
And you consented to this.
Well, so yes, Seth told Nathan about me. And of course, you know, what's the first thing he wants is
she cute?
Can you show me a picture?
Yeah.
You know, because everybody's, oh, she's really godly, she's really sweet. And he's like,
okay, and?
Okay.
Which is usually code
Can you
for.
show me a picture? Right. So
If you start with, she really loves Jesus.
Yes, exactly. That's the way he tells the story. So, yeah. Anyway, so then Heather told me about him, showed me pictures of him, and
that went well. The picture exchange obviously passed muster.
Well, he's
Yeah.
Dr. Hottie, so.
yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, so he asked for my email address, and we started emailing because Heather had set up, like, he was going to come to Philly, and we were going to hang out. We were going to double date. But then he was just like, wait, I didn't even, like, ask this girl in person myself. That feels kind of weird. So he asked for my email address, and he emailed, and we just started emailing back and forth every day.
this was what, like 2000?
2006. Yeah,
Oh.
so, like, texting wasn't a thing. We didn't talk on the phone or anything. Like, all we did was email for, like, a month before we met.
Dear Nathan.
I know, yeah.
How do you sign off an email when you're just talking to a guy? Your friend.
I
Much
don't know.
love.
I think you just put your name.
Take care. You would think about that. Like, how do I sign this
Oh,
off?
yeah.
Yeah,
See you next time.
Yeah, you don't seem too eager.
yeah.
See you next time.
So you don't remember how you
I
didn't
don't
think
remember.
through
I
that?
probably just put my name.
Chat soon.
She was at Westminster Theological Seminary. This
In
was the least of her
Christ.
problems. In Christ. Yes, exactly.
Warmest
I don't
regards.
Yeah. I'd have to look back on that one.
So-
Just regards.
So,
Did you save the emails?
oh yeah. Yeah,
still
we
have
have
them?
them like Nathan like printed them all out at one point, and so we have like a little.
Oh, he's a romantic.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, that's sweet. So the
But
emails went well.
It did, and actually for me, I kind of needed that from some things in my past. I needed that distance,
Yeah.
and I always thought it'd be harder to get to know somebody long distance, but actually, it felt easier
I
because like
believe it.
if we wanted to hang out, we had to either email or once we met in person, then we would just talk on the phone. So it's not like you're going to a movie and you're not really talking, or like you have to just intentionally get to know somebody. And I was like, if this doesn't work out, I never have to see the guy again. So there was no pretending. There was no like just trying to be the perfect person. It was just like, this is me. Here I am.
Have your kids asked to see the emails?
No, they
Would you
haven't.
show it to them?
I don't know.
Depends on which one, maybe.
Right. Yeah. That's a Nathan question because he tends to be a little more private about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you
So-
know, I've always thought I had this picture of my kids would be all like, "Oh, tell us the story." They're so annoyed by our existence on a regular basis that they're just not interested.
Aw.
So
Yeah, I know my kids aren't there yet.
Yeah.
To the being annoyed part, but yeah, they've heard our story. They like our story.
So you exchange your emails. Sincerely yours,
Yeah. Yeah. So then we met in person. We hung out for the whole weekend.
and that went well.
That went really well. Yeah. And then when he went home, he like had a conversation with his mom, and he's like, I found the girl I want to marry. And he's a very, like, if you know him, he's the slowest decision maker ever. Like, just very methodical, very slow. So it was very out of character for him to feel like he knew right away. And I was like, I just need a little more time because I just met you, you know? So
But he told you that too.
I think he told me that. Yeah, he actually.
It's a bit
No, wait a
forward.
minute. He told her that before he had ever met me in person. He told her that from the emails.
That's intense.
And and is very out of character for him. So that's when I was like, anybody can sound good in an email. Like, I need some time here to get to know you. So
We guys
Yeah.
struggle with those things. I told Sarah I thought I had this perfect like movie moment. We're driving in my truck back to school, and I'm like, I think I'm falling in love with you. And she said, let me know when you decide.
end of movie moment.
I thought it was like this, like, you had me at hello, or you complete me, or
That's so Sarah.
isn't that great? So
Yeah.
you guys become an item.
Yeah. So, and he is very romantic. When he was in Akron and I was in Philly, he's a musician, so he wrote the song, just like piano song, no words. And this will tell you the year too. He posted it on his MySpace.
Oh yeah.
Like the MySpace music, and told me, like, here's the link. Like, I didn't even know he had a MySpace, so go listen to this song or whatever.
And it's called Ode to Erica, or?
It was just called For Erica. Yeah.
Wow. And so how did that go over when you listened to it?
Oh, I was like bawling. Like, I always wanted somebody to write a song for me. That's the coolest.
Did he
Like,
know that?
No. No.
Yeah, you guys are like a movie.
I know. Yeah. Well, then the real movie part was when he proposed. And I didn't know he was, like, he's in Akron. I didn't know he was coming to Philly. So my friend Heather set up that, like, girls' night, ice skating, like the outdoor ice skating rink downtown Philly. It was December, so there's Christmas lights and everything. So we go out on the ice, and we hadn't even gone around one time. And I was literally, like, turning to her to say, this is not nearly as romantic as it looks like in all the movies. Like, we're here, it's a bunch of girls who are ice skating, And the song that he had written for me started playing, like, over the loudspeakers at the ice rink.
And you recognize it right away?
Oh, immediately. But although he was afraid that I would think that he had, like, ripped it off or something, that, like, all of a sudden I hear this song. I'm like, no, I know that's his song. So, and then he came, like, walking out on the ice with roses and ring and all that. So, it's very romantic.
So, circling back to the article, how did you know he was the one? Was there a moment where you decided?
I don't feel like there was a moment. I feel like it was this process of the more I learned about him, the more I was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer.
So you felt like it was a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it took you a little longer to get to that moment, it sounds like, than him.
Yeah, I had to meet him in person first.
How dare.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you think that do you think you were ready? Like this concept that you could be ready for marriage? This guy says you're never ready.
I mean, I feel like at the time I probably thought that I was, but looking back on it, we dated for 6 months. We were engaged for like 4.5 months. So it wasn't even a whole year that we had known each other when we got married.
Oh, wow.
So part of me feels like that could have gone really badly, but it didn't. The Lord was in it. And it was very clear for both of us that the Lord was in it. And we had both prayed about it a lot. And so it seemed really clear. But yeah, I think there were times that we were just kind of like, I look back on it and think the Lord was really protecting us that,
well, when you think
we
of
didn't know
it,
each other that well.
well, when you think of it with your own kids, like if your oldest daughter was like, I met this guy, we've been emailing, we're going to get married, and I haven't known him a year, you'd be like, absolutely not. You're not doing that.
Right. Yeah.
It's fun to look back that way.
Yeah.
So do you agree with him that you're never ready? Or do you not totally buy into that concept?
I mean, I understand what he means when he says that. But part of me feels like as a believer, I'm indwelled by the Holy Spirit who enables me to do things that I can't do on my own. So if I don't feel ready for marriage, you have to determine, is it like a fear of commitment? Is it a fear of marriage? Is it a fear,
It's the counselor.
Yeah, if my parents' marriage didn't go well, am I scared? Do I feel like mine's going to blow up too down the road or something? But I mean, if there's red flags, yeah, you should not be ready. But I think as believers, we really have to lean into the Holy Spirit's guidance to help prepare us for what we don't even know is coming,
Lauren, are you ready? Are you ever ready for marriage?
I don't think so, because I think we don't really know what it entails until you're in it. I don't think people really understand the sacrifice and the dying to yourself and putting someone else above yourself, or really realizing every day, like, that person's still there and their things that are annoying are still there. And
Things are annoying about a spouse?
yeah. And so and it's just like with kids, people look back on it fondly. And so we don't talk honestly about the hard parts about marriage or the hard parts about being a parent. And so I feel like we don't actually have a good picture of it before we're married.
Yeah, I mean, I remember even in a parallel issue, I had a buddy at work years ago he was like, yeah, my wife and I want to have kids. I don't know. We're going to wait till we're ready. I was like, oh, well, you'll never have any then.
Yeah.
So my oldest is 20 and I'm still not ready. I never have felt fully prepared for it.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying, Erica, as well. It's not that you just kind of go, well, I don't know, I'm not ready, but we might as well just get married. No, there have to be some like things in place, but I have more of the unromantic view of that at the end of the day, it's a decision, not a feeling. It's a choice of going, well, this person has these characteristics. I guess we're just going to go for it.
Yeah. And I can relate to that because I do feel like there was a time where I was like, I feel like I don't know everything about him, but I know the things that I need to know about him to know whether or not a marriage between us would work, if that makes sense.
But then you meet people who have far too many of those things on a list. You know what I mean? Like, and then they end up single the rest of their lives because, well, he's 6'1", but I was hoping for 6'2", so sorry. And I'm using women as an example, but I think guys do the very same thing. So, like, you're never really completely ready, but what are the things you ought to be sure are in place? What's the minimum? It's almost like, what are the non-negotiables? Like in, Christianity, we have the doctrine, dogma.
Doctrine, dogma, and opinion, yeah.
You have doctrine. Okay,
Yeah.
so what's the doctrine for marriage then? Non-negotiable. You got to be a believer if you're a believer.
Yeah. I mean, I think some of the other ones depend on your own personality too, like what's going to work with your personality and how you function.
But the Christian culture thing, I've heard it. Well, you went to Moody Bible Institute. I've heard, well, he loves Jesus. He's not very cute, but he loves Jesus, so I think maybe we'll be together. What?
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be some level of attraction.
Yeah, there has to be attraction, and you have to, like, your personalities have to gel. If you're a very serious person and you don't like silliness, you're not going to marry someone who likes to joke around.
And yet I'm convinced that in many successful marriages, the husband and wife are almost opposites in many ways.
Yeah, but if you don't like someone who jokes around, if you can't,
Right.
You can't have fun and stuff, and you marry someone who likes to have a lot of fun, that's not going to work.
True.
You're going to be annoyed by them all the time.
Because, see, I've thought we should come up with our own. Maybe the three of us go into business because we need more businesses
I don't
together.
need any
to
more
run.
businesses with you. The two
but
is fine.
where all these dating sites are trying for compatibility,
Right.
I think they got it all wrong.
It's anti-compatibility.
Yes. Like, we're going to find out the way you are, and we're going to find someone opposite of that. But that's not, I don't want to be funny.
Yeah.
Which would be such a boring life.
Yeah, it would be.
Eddie's pretty funny, right? Nathan's funny.
He's very funny.
He's very, very funny. Okay, so we're at some level of you ought to know that you're never going to be completely ready. But there's some level of, as it's annoying, at some point you're going to tell your daughters, well, I just knew.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you can get more specific than that. Is that fair?
I mean, it was like probably a year ago, you brought Grace to our house and she asked me that exact question. And I think that was my answer. I was like, I don't know. I just knew. I just wanted to marry him.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. So one of her goals is to be married and have kids. And so I brought her to the Cuevases and the Zions. And I was like, talk to them, because you can't just talk to your parents, I don't think. And you all gave advice on that kind of thing. And I don't know if it helped or not, but I was grateful that you did that.
Didn't really have an answer. It was just like, I don't know. I just knew I wanted to marry him. So.
But you agree it's a decision.
Yeah.
Okay. Have we solved anything here?
No,
Not really.
not really.
But now you're ready when your girls ask you.
Okay.
Ready to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you could do a homeschool lesson about love.
Oh my, that's interesting.
Okay.
It could be part philosophy, part practical.
Okay. Storing that one away. It's filing.
Way in the back.
To never come back again.
Well, I used to mess with my high school students when we would talk about philosophy and what it was, when we were talking about ancient Greece or whatever, and the origins of philosophy. And one of the questions you ask is, what is love? And they would try to answer, and you can always ask a new question, and you never really get to the answer of what love truly is. What is love, Lauren?
I don't know.
Erica?
I would say it has something to do with, like, you're more concerned with the other person's well-being than your own.
Oh, that's good.
Something along those lines.
Westminster Theological Seminary. That was my mistake.
Yep, it really was.
Lauren and I want to take a brief moment before we continue today's episode to thank our sponsors. First of all, did you know I have a brand new morning show? That's right. It's called Upliftd Mornings with Brian. And our sponsor is Upliftd Stream from KHCB Media Group. We're so grateful for their sponsorship and their attention to my new morning show. Check it out weekdays from 6 to 8 a.m. Central, 7 to 9 Eastern. We have a lot of music, worship music. We've got scripture. I have devotional thoughts, try to share some funny stories, dad jokes, Bible quizzes, things like that. For more information how you can listen to my new morning show on the Upliftd stream, just go to upliftedstream.org. That's upliftedstream.org, or just download the KHCB mobile app. We also want to thank our sponsor, JLP CPAs. If you're a small business owner, you already wear dozens of hats. You don't want to have to worry about things like taxes, payroll, financial reporting, budgets, balance sheets, all those kinds of things. Let our friends at JLP CPAs take care of that for you. They're a firm focused on small businesses. They're a local Northeast Ohio company, and you ought to check them out so that you can focus on what you're good at in your small business. For more information, go to jlpcpas.com. Again, jlpcpas.com. And finally, we'd like to thank our friend David Safransky and Edgewater Investment Group for being a sponsor of today's episode. Have your finances been overwhelming? Are you stressed about your future? You should talk to Dave and his team at Edgewater Investment Group. They'll help you with things like budgeting, retirement, investing, and they'll be honest and straightforward. So you want more information about how you can get connected and get their help with your future financially? Go to edgewaterig.com. Again, that's edgewaterig.com. Thanks again to our sponsors, and now we'll keep going with today's episode. Okay, so you're a part of a ministry called Grace and Beauty at Maranatha Bible Church, but it's not just for people at your church.
Correct.
Remind folks of the elevator speech of what is your ministry, Grace and Beauty.
Mm-hmm. So Grace and Beauty is a ministry for women walking through infertility, pregnancy loss, so that could be miscarriage or stillbirth. Also the death of a child from birth through adult. It doesn't have to just be a young child or baby. So we have a kind of a support group for them to come together and be with other people that have experienced the same thing, and a safe place to talk about it and to grieve and really to honor your baby in that way.
And, you know, you would think, oh, boy, there's got to be a lot of those kind of ministries out there. No?
There's not.
No.
Are there many, or are you guys are you the only one in the area that you know of?
We're the only one that we know of that's that specific. I mean, there's Grief Share.
Yeah, but that's different, I think.
It's a very different type of thing. And there's not, I mean, for infertility, for sure, I don't know of anything like that. And then for pregnancy loss, there's very little. I don't know of anybody in the Akron area that's doing it.
I think it's hard to talk about, especially when you're at the age where you're trying to have children. Mm-hmm. You're in a moment where everyone's having kids, and so you don't want to go. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why it's hard to bring it up.
Yeah.
But there's also some people who are just very private, and they don't want to share those things.
Right. It feels like a very private kind of pain.
Yeah.
I'm also told you're supposed to be private about it.
Yeah. And purity culture from the Christian church didn't do a great job with that. And we actually don't do well with grief in general as believers.
I agree.
We try to rush people to heal.
Yeah.
But I think we do exceptionally bad when it comes to pregnancy loss of a child, and infertility. Mm-hmm. I remember my pastor and his wife, when I was in Broadview Heights, they had a miscarriage, and somebody said something like, well, at least you got another one. Mm-hmm. Like, how is that helping? Or, oh, God's got a plan. You'll be fine. Mm-hmm. It's so dismissive and rude. I hate that. And yet, in the midst of this, I love your topic for today. You wanted to talk about what do we mean as believers when we say God redeems things? Because it can be really hard to see how God can infertility or miscarriage. Right? I mean, so how do you even have that lesson in a room full of women or a child loss? Yeah.
Yeah.
God's going to redeem this.
Right. Well, you don't say it like that.
How do you even bring it up?
Well, I think there's this kind of mistaken belief in the Christian culture that we have to figure out why something is happening. Why is God allowing something in order to learn from it or to grow from it, as if God is nothing more than this cosmic teacher, when there's so much more to God. I mean, he is a teacher, for sure. Maybe he has something he wants you to learn from it. But to say that that's the primary thing, or that you're never going to find healing until you figure out why, I think is false, because we live in a world that's cursed by sin. Death was not part of the original design. And so sometimes bad things happen that you cannot explain and you don't have an answer for. And to try to find an answer is almost so limiting to God that you just want to be really careful that you're not trying to pursue something that he doesn't want you to pursue and trying to figure out why, if that makes sense. So I would say the place that we start is just asking those questions. It's okay to ask why. It's okay to ask, how could God let this happen? But we look to Scripture for what does God mean when he says that he redeems things. So you see all throughout the Old Testament, God's redeeming thing. He's redeeming Israel. He's in Hebrew, it's called the Goel Israel, the Redeemer of Israel. And even Hosea, the whole book of Hosea was, God used Hosea's marriage as an example of what he wanted to do with the people of Israel who had left him. In a sense, he compared it to committing adultery. And so with the idea of redemption in Scripture, we kind of come to this conclusion that, okay, we know that God redeems things. Biblically, I would say the definition is to buy back something that's been lost, stolen, taken away, and you have to pay in order to get that back. So when we think about child loss, pregnancy loss, infertility, those kinds of things feel especially meaningless. Why did you let me carry this child for 8 weeks if I wasn't going to get to actually become the mother and give birth? And, I think I would be a good mother. I want to raise my children for the Lord. Why would you not allow me to have any children? Those kinds of questions. Why would you give me a child for a few years and take them away? So those kinds of things, when you just throw, for example, Romans 8:28 at somebody, God works all things together for good. It's true, but it gives them the impression that God cares more about his own agenda than he does about me. And that couldn't be further from the truth. God cares deeply about our suffering. So in terms of helping people to see that, we talk a lot about the presence of God in our suffering, that he is always with us. He never leaves us. And I think the ultimate example of redemption would be, the cross. Okay, so you have, why did Jesus die on the cross? To redeem humanity. And what was that all about? It was about creating a deeper, more intimate relationship with us, that we couldn't have a relationship with God because of our sin. And so every time that God wants to redeem situations in our lives, I think he's after the same thing. He's after a deeper, more intimate relationship with us. And we have to see a little bit bigger maybe than what we see, because from our perspective, suffering is meaningless, and particularly this type of suffering. So I like to think of redemption more in terms of giving something that has no purpose a new purpose. So you take something like a pregnancy loss, and it serves, from a human perspective, it serves no purpose in our lives other than pain. And God can take that and create a new purpose. And I can't tell you what that purpose is going to be, of course, but perhaps it's that starting place of, rather than turning away from God, I want to turn towards God and find out, okay, this suffering is actually an invitation, because all suffering is an invitation. And Satan wants us to believe that it's an invitation to believe that God's not good, that he doesn't care, that he doesn't love. But again, if we look at the cross, God was willing to lose his own son. So he knows what it's like to lose a child. And he was willing to do that for his greater purpose, for his greater good. So there's taking something that has no purpose and turning it into something with a new purpose. And we try to communicate that to the women that it's not something, like I said with the Romans 8:28, that God has a bigger agenda, that he doesn't care about you. He cares about you so much that he's willing to do anything and walk alongside of it with you. Like he cares about this so much to the point that he's going to walk through the suffering with you, because he promises to always be with us. So it's sort of turning it on its head a little bit for the women, and presenting God in a more surprising way, because the immediate reaction is he doesn't care, and why could he let this happen? You just accuse. So we talk about engaging with God rather than raging against God. And so that kind of idea of, all right, he's inviting me. So what is he inviting me to? He's inviting me to a deeper intimacy in my pain, in my suffering. And if I turn away because I'm angry with him, it's going to just create even more pain.
Now, you've been really open about your experience with miscarriage, which has been so helpful for so many people. If someone said to you, what did that look like for you, that process of it being redeemed? How did that look for you?
I mean, in one sense, you can say, well, God has given me 4 beautiful children, so he's replaced. I don't like that, because redeeming is not this, like, you're not saying that you're replacing anything. Mm-hmm. So the child that I lost can never be replaced. And that's why it's hurtful to say things like, at least you have another one, or God will probably give you more children. Like, that's not where I want to place my hope, So for me, when I can, I have hindsight now of almost 15 years ago that happened. And I can say that God has used it for the ministry of Grace and Beauty. If you haven't personally experienced miscarriage or child loss, it's very difficult to relate to somebody. You can try, and you should try, but it's hard if you haven't experienced that. So I think God was preparing me for this ministry, and you have to be careful with that too, because you don't want to say that, like, oh, I'd rather have this ministry than have my baby. That's not what I'm saying. Obviously, I would want my baby, but I have to choose to trust in something that I can't understand. I think sometimes we're like, back to what I was saying at the beginning, we have to understand why. No, God calls us to trust even when we don't understand. So if I can trust him even in situations that I don't understand, then that's kind of the first step of starting to accept these things that make no sense, things that I don't want to accept, but I can trust. I at least have that. Like, I know I can trust him. Scripture says he's good. I'm going to trust that. And I don't think that I would have had that depth of understanding of how God can restore and redeem situations if I hadn't walked through that. So
now, even the idea of God redeeming a painful situation like that, somebody might think that can mean there'll be a point where it doesn't hurt anymore. Is that, to what extent has that been your experience?
I think it's always going to hurt.
That's hard to hear, isn't it? It
is. I think if you try to not feel the pain, it's going to come. That's a very unhealthy place to be. That's where bitterness starts to grow, when you try to just ignore it, like everything's fine, there's no pain. And there are some people that's their coping mechanism. They don't know any other way. They don't have anywhere else to turn. It's one of the things that's beautiful about Grace and Beauty is coming together with other women to recognize I'm not alone in this, and I can talk about this, and because it's not something that's going to go away. My friend Shannon, who started the ministry of Grace and Beauty, next week is actually the anniversary of her daughter's death, and it's 8 years, and it's still just as hard. And so it's not something that's going to go away, but as far as the pain, but there's hope in it. There's hope in the pain, even just recognizing that death is meant to be a reminder that this is not the way the world is supposed to be. And God has something so much better planned for us. And that I'm going to have an eternity in heaven with my child. And so recognizing there's a much bigger thing going on than just me. Tim Keller says that if you knew that your suffering was glorifying God in front of the angels, the demons, the principalities, the powers, would that change your attitude toward it? And I feel like it should. If we knew what God was really doing, I think it would totally change our whole perspective on it. I like to use the illustration for Christmas. My extended family always likes to put a puzzle together. We usually do multiple puzzles. And one year my sister got a puzzle from Goodwill. And we start putting it together, and it's just like, you're just hoping all the pieces are there. You know,
Right.
like
Yeah.
it's really defeating when you get to the end of the puzzle and you're missing like 3 pieces.
Yeah.
And it just, you have that feeling of it's just incomplete. And I feel like a lot of times when you've lost a child, you have that feeling of like, my life is incomplete. I was supposed to have another family member here. Or with infertility, like I'm longing for my family to look this way, and it doesn't. And I like to think that once we get to heaven, God's going to hand us those pieces, and we won't even believe it. We won't even be able to imagine, like, I cannot believe this is what you were doing with those pieces. Like, I just can't believe the end result of that puzzle. So we have to think bigger than what we see right now, and that's really hard to do in isolation.
Yeah, it is. And I think people have to make sure they avoid the trap as well of, oh, I see God's plan, so now it doesn't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
No. Those two things can coexist.
Yes.
You can see that God is using your pain in terms of helping create this ministry, Grace and Beauty.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean it's not going to hurt anymore.
Right.
I think that's so important for people to grasp. And I would say, too, correct me if I'm wrong in this, and Lauren, I know you've been open about your experience with miscarriage as well. Someone might think, well, I can share it with my husband. I feel like there's a layer at which I can never understand miscarriage.
Mm-hmm.
And so just presuming someone can work through it just with their husband, it would seem to me maybe that's not possible. Tell me I'm crazy.
No, I feel like I agree with that.
I can't possibly understand.
Even the most sympathetic husband, I mean, it's the woman's body.
Yeah.
And God has designed our bodies in a way that we are connected to that baby before it's ever even born. And so the husband hasn't had that connection. And so it makes sense that it's really hard for him to relate to that. So a lot of the connection for the father happens after the child is born. And not that they can't connect while the baby's still in the womb, but it's just different. It's a different experience. So,
Why is it hard for women, do you think, to talk to each other about miscarriage experience?
Because you feel a lot of shame, like you did something wrong.
That's a hard one as a man to understand. Because it seems obvious to me you did nothing wrong. But this is this is a natural thing that someone would feel. Mm-hmm. Like you must have done something wrong to cause it.
I think particularly when there's multiple miscarriages, which there's a lot of women in our group that have had multiple miscarriages, that then my body's broken.
Yeah.
It's not doing what a woman's body's designed to do.
And hearing your husband say, oh, you didn't do anything wrong. Does that help?
No. No.
It should, but it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Yeah, no, and I don't feel bad about that because I get
Yeah,
it.
you should say that. Like you should try. You can't just say, well, I'm not going to get it, so I'm not even going to try. No,
Yeah.
you should. And I think husbands will do well to give a lot of grace and a lot of validation for the feelings that she's experiencing, even when you don't understand them. It's okay to validate and affirm the way that she's feeling, and give her space to grieve.
So then why, sometimes you hear it's women who are saying the callous things to other women. I don't get that. Is it they haven't experienced miscarriage? Or do you see what I'm saying? Like oftentimes I hear it's a woman going, well, you got another one. You're all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably.
So how do we do better in this? Because I feel like if anyone's going to be the best at helping women navigate loss of a child, it ought to be the church.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yet we're not.
Mm-hmm.
So what does it look like for us to do better?
I think you should have to give people space.
Mm-hmm.
I think we want people to move on really fast. And what's just like biologically true after miscarriage is sometimes it takes months for your body to get back to normal and to be on a normal schedule again to even try to have another baby. And so, but we want people just to like move on. and we want you to talk about it the one time, but we don't actually ever want you to talk about it again. Just the once is fine. And don't keep bringing it up at prayer group. We're going to just ask you the one time, because now you have to move on from it. Because that baby's not here anymore, so why are you like still talking about it? And so I think we need to give people more space and more time. And I think we need to remember people. So I think I've shared what was really meaningful to me. I had already had one child, and I had a miscarriage in between my two sons. And when I got pregnant with Ellis, my sisters and my mom sent me a bouquet of flowers, said, "We still remember your other baby." And just like remembering those things. Because
That was meaningful to you?
Yeah, I remember that. And I think like, oh, I'm so grateful to have another pregnancy, but I do still think about my other baby.
But see, somebody might think, oh, I don't know if I want to remind you of that pain.
They're already reminded about it themselves. But
So,
to have
so we need to
someone
get
else-
over that.
Yeah, to have someone else acknowledge it, and it's not just in your own brain, means so much more.
It's more painful to have it not acknowledged.
Yeah.
So how do you bring it up? Like if you're a husband even, how do you don't want to ruin the moment.
Yeah, I recommend to people a couple things. Remembering the anniversary of the death of the child, or the birthday of a child who's passed, and not being afraid to text the mom on that day, and use the child's name if they had a name. To say, like for my friend Shannon, I'm thinking about Annabelle today, and to just let her know that I'm praying for her and that it's okay that today's hard, or to just say, I haven't forgotten about her either, because she's not forgetting.
Yeah.
So just acknowledge it. I think when, Shannon has said, if she would walk down the hallway in church and she would see people that knew what had happened and they looked the other way. And I don't think it was malicious. I think it was just like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, people are paralyzed
what
by
to
not knowing
do.
what to say.
But when you think about Job and his suffering, and when his 3 friends came, the best thing that Job's friends ever did was say nothing.
Yeah.
Everything went downhill when they started speaking. So you see that person in the hallway at church or at work or wherever you are, just give them a hug. And just whisper in their ear, "I'm so sorry," or "I'm praying for you." Like it's as simple as that, of just acknowledging that it's okay that you're having a hard time with this. I think a lot of times, like you said, people think you should be over this by now. Hormonally, it takes your body a long time to be over that. But emotionally, even more so. So give people the space, and don't be like Job's friends to decide when it's time for them to move on.
Because that is so like grossly selfish for someone to go, I'm ready for you to move on from your loss.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah.
But I'm totally with you in that I've tried to at least train my kids in this one, because I see, whether a Christian or not, people fail at acknowledging pain in someone's life. I've been to funerals where people won't bring up the person that's died, even if their body's right there. I remember there was a woman who lost twins at our church, and there was a funeral for it, and she stood alone in the narthex while everybody else was chit-chatting. Because I think people don't know what to say. You don't have to know what to say. You don't have to go over and give her some sort of sage wisdom. It's a Chinese proverb once said, no, I'm so sorry. It's not hard.
Yeah.
Why do we make it so hard? It's frustrating for me,
Well-
because, again, Christians are terrible at grief, too, and acknowledging grief.
And they're not just afraid of saying, like, trying to figure out to say the right thing. They're afraid of saying the wrong thing and saying, like, making it worse. Like, I don't want to make it worse. But people know, like, they know your heart. If they can tell if you say Romans 8:28, but they know if they know your heart is sincere and genuinely grieving with them and trying to find God's presence and purpose in your pain, they're not even probably going to hear the words. They won't remember what you said or didn't say, if your heart was with them in it and they could tell how you were genuinely grieving with them.
Yeah, my friend Nancy Kane told me that she had a friend who lost a teenage daughter in a car accident. And she said what her role was to go and she sat next to her and was with her for hours at the funeral, and afterwards at the reception at the house. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to say anything. She's just sitting right there, right with her. Sometimes that's all you can do. I've had the unfortunate circumstance in 2 different situations where a friend of ours had their child die by suicide. And what do you say? Nothing. There's nothing you can say. But your presence and I'm so sorry, and how are you? Even doing hard things like, tell me about what the hardest thing is right now for you. I don't know why we make it hard. It's just not that hard. And I remember the dad even telling me, the hardest thing is my son's job was to trim the hedges, and I just can't bring myself to trim the hedges. And that's what a personal, beautiful moment to share. And I just had to ask a question about him.
Right.
Not me telling, you know what you need to do? Trim the hedges. That's what you need to do here.
Yeah, and there's wisdom in that because grief is constantly changing. The way that you feel this week can be very different than the way you feel in the next week. And to just revisit that with that person, how is it this week? You know, what's new with your grief this week? And I love that example of just sitting next to the person in silence, because the hope would be that having the presence of somebody who's sitting with you, even if they're not speaking, is a reminder that the presence of God is with you, sitting next to you, is with you in the doctor's office when you found out. The presence of God was with you in the hospital bed. The presence of God is with you when you got that phone call. And you probably weren't thinking about it right then. You weren't acknowledging it right then. But when we, as the body of Christ, come alongside of believers who are grieving, that's the goal, really, is to remind them of the presence of Christ, that you're not alone in this because I'm here and because the Lord is with you. And if you just say that, again, it has to do with your heart. You're like, well, God's with you, so get over it. No, that's not how you say it. It's all about your tone and how you approach it with that person. But we do have an individual that comes to Grace and Beauty who lost a son to suicide. So just to let people know, there's a safe place for that, because talk about shame. There's a lot of shame that women carry around for that. And so I think coming to a safe place where other people have experienced that too is so beneficial.
Yeah, and I guess one more thing I can share as well is I was struck by, we went to visit a family who, their son died by suicide, and a relative, I think it was a sister, became an advocate. So we showed up at their house, and everybody's grieving in their own way, but eventually it started feeling like it was a party. Everybody was like probably drinking too much, eating, and you could see the parents in pain. And the advocate, the sister, looked around. It was like, we're done. All right, everybody, time to go. We're leaving. And everybody left. And it was just, I watched, I was like, that's beautiful. Someone is really focused on the needs of the mom and dad, and we're going to advocate for what they need.
Yep.
And again, it's not about, if you make it not about you as you're trying to comfort someone, I think that's the key. It isn't about you.
Right.
It feels like it is, though, right? I don't want to say the wrong thing. Well, don't say anything then, you silly.
Yeah.
Well, and that can be the husband's role in public situations. If she feels overwhelmed by other people saying things or not saying things or whatever, people can be unmeaningly insensitive. He can be the advocate, and he can stand up for how she's feeling, and be the person to help usher her out of the situation.
Well, that's good.
You know?
It's very good. Now, if someone's hearing this and they live in Northeast Ohio, and they've experienced one of the losses we're discussing tied to children, how can they learn more about Grace and Beauty?
So you can go to our church's website, which is mbc95.org. And I think it's under the women's ministry section of our website.
MBC.
mbc95.org.
And go check it out. Don't let your pain control your life. It's not that it's going to disappear, as Erica was saying, but I think it's important that you find other people in the same very difficult circumstance.
Yeah, we meet once a month, and so it's not a huge commitment, but it's enough to just have those reminders of what truth is when you're having a hard time remembering.
And, I think one last thing to be helpful in this, too, is what's it like when you show up for the first time? No one's going to run up to you and go, "You lost a child? What happened?"
Right. Yeah. What brings you here? No, because everybody in the room has experienced one of those three things. Maybe they've lost an adult child. Maybe they lost a child that only lived 3 hours. Maybe they're struggling with infertility. Maybe it's pregnancy loss. Like everybody there has experienced some type of traumatic suffering. And so everybody gets it, you know.
You don't have to share and no one's going to interrogate you.
No, we have, there's a teaching time, group teaching time, and then we break off into smaller groups based on your own personal experiences. And if you want to talk, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. And if somebody's afraid to come, I always encourage, or like maybe you're listening and you know somebody who's experienced this, tell them that you'll go with them. Like, be the friend that sits next to them and says, I want to help you through this, and I want to be there for you, and I haven't experienced this, and maybe that's going to maybe that'll teach you something when you go and you sit and you just observe and listen to these women, and it'll help you learn what you can do to help. So
go be a part of it. Grace and Beauty. Thank you, Erica Kurscak, for your time. I know we'll have you back at some point. And before we sign off today, too, if you want to connect with her, one of the other ways is just connect with us. You can come to our website and send us a note.
Yeah, stainsglass-media.com.
And by the way, check out the website. If you scroll to the bottom, if you're looking for your website to be made, Jonas Swenson's fantastic. He did a great job for us. Reach out to him. We're always looking for sponsors. So if you or your business or just you.
Just you.
Like if Erica Kurscak wanted to sponsor, we could do that.
Put her name right here.
That's right. Or your nonprofit, whatever. We'd love to talk to you about it. Reach out to us. We can start one of those conversations. And thank you for listening. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, review, all that kind of stuff. And that's it for today, right?
Yep.
All right. We'll see you next time.